Hi, how you're doing? Welcome back. It's episode 23 of Where Black Cats Walk, and this week we're asking 4 particularly interesting questions to Dylan, our Sunderland fan. Number 1, is Isidor the best forward in this league? Number 2, is more respect due to Sunderland? Is this now a 4-way title race? The others don't think so. Why has Sunderland got such a bad reputation in the FA Cup in recent years, and what signings need to be found in January? Thank you all very much for joining us. Dylan travels the country, as I know lots of you do, and has travelled to Blackburn and broken down issues. How was your Christmas, Dylan, overall?
I know it was all right. Worst Boxing Day of all time, as you just alluded to there. But other than that, I've had a kind of time. What about you?
Yeah, all good, thank you. Let's we'll have a look at how Sunderland did, of course, in a second. But we have to start with Wilson Isidor. We put out a tweet recently that he is pound for pound. Obviously, you spend the $4 million at the end of the season. Even if you spend $4 million on it, I still think he is pound for pound the best signing of any Championship club this season. What a player!
Yeah, no, he's definitely up there. And I mean, some could point at him not being up there quite with the top scorers in the league. But when you look at it, he didn't come in until sort of back end of August, so he didn't benefit from full pre-season. He sort of came in after the season had already started. And I think whilst he's not scored up there with the top scorers, sorry, the quality of goal that he is scoring every single week is just, it's outstanding. It's like he refuses to score a tap in. It's bangers only. Every single goal he scores belongs on the highlight reel. He's brilliant. And after he scored against Portsmouth, after he did his little Henri celebration, he was holding the badge. He was saying, "This is where I want to be." So I think we all would be happy to have him here for a very long time.
Absolutely, and he's if you look at your promotion rivals, he's better than Peru and Patrick Bamford. Certainly, he's certainly better than
Patrick Bamford.
He's certainly better than Kiefer Moore. You would say at the moment, and in terms of Burnley, well, their goals come from midfield. So I think in terms of the 4, you've got the best striker, certainly of all those in the promotion business, haven't you? Maybe Latte Lath, perhaps. Could be argued, but what do you reckon?
Yeah, Latte Lath is probably the best striker in the league. He's just so quick and chaotic. It's just so hard to deal with. And that's why he's getting linked with all these Premier League moves this window. It would be interesting to see if he goes, because I think Borough might be in a bit of trouble if he goes. Not massive trouble, because they're a good team and they're playing well. But obviously, if you lose a player of that quality, it's not going to do your chances any good. Someone like Josh Sargent as well. I know everyone likes him at Norwich. They're not as high in the table as they maybe could be. But I think on his day, he's one of the best strikers in the league as well. But I think the longer the season goes on and the more Wilson plays, and if he keeps improving, keeps going good goals, he'll be sort of shoo-in for the best striker in the league come the end of the season. And hopefully we're in the top 2 spots come that time.
Yeah, and to say you're not paying his full wages as well, is that right? Yeah,
yes,
it's madness.
It's because of the rules on signing players from Russia. They basically because we wanted to buy him ideally, I'm pretty sure, and it was like, oh, we can't because he's playing for Zenit. So we've just been giving him. I don't think we're paying any of his wages. If we are, we're not paying them all. We're not paying a loan fee. So we basically just have this Thierry Henry regen for free for the season, then you can buy him in a year's time. Sound, thank you very much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and he even did an Henry-like celebration, didn't he, with the corner flag. We also need to mention Mayenda here as well, because the partnership is certainly blossoming. But is Mayenda still a little bit inconsistent for you, or being too harsh?
Do you know what? I do really like Mayenda. I think he's quick. He's agile. Sometimes his decision making can be a bit hit and miss, but you can't fault him for the assist against Portsmouth. Ultimately, the finish is great from Wilson, but if the ball doesn't come in, that goal doesn't happen. And I think people also do forget he's only 19 years old. He's obviously came in start of last season, barely featured, went out on loan, couldn't even get a game off the bench for Hibs at times. So the fact he's coming now, starting games and playing relatively well all around, despite sometimes missing the odd chance, I think it says a lot about how much he's developed since he's come here. So yeah, he's got his few bits where he's got to polish up on, like end of the first half yesterday. Probably should have scored, but as I said, he had a goal contribution. He played an all-round really good game. I think the partnership up front, the two of him and Wilson, is definitely bringing out the best of him. So yeah, hopefully we're going to see him just keep improving as the weeks come.
Okay. Word on Sirkin as well, who Finally made his return. How did he do?
Yeah, he was good. He's always really good going forward. Sort of quick little flicky passes with the winger, getting forward. He probably could have had an assist if we'd been able to put some of the chances away. As I said to you before we start recording, I've got no idea how that ended 1-0, especially with the man getting sent off. I thought, honestly, I was expecting it to end about 3, 4, 5. And the fact that we're sort of barely held on in the end was quite stressful. But 3 points is 3 points, I suppose.
Okay. Can you help us get to our magic number of 100 subscribers? Press the subscribe button below. There's tons of Sunderland content out there. We're just a small fish in a very big pond, but we massively would like your support. To 20 minutes of Sunderland chat every single week. Let's have a look back at the Christmas period then, Dylan, as we alluded to earlier. Mixed bag of results, of course. A great win over Sheffield United, and of course, well-deserved as well. Wilder wasn't particularly happy at the end of it, but then he never is. What happened at Stoke City?
Well, I'd say unfortunately, but to be honest, thankfully, I didn't watch it because I was in work. But from obviously, I was following along on Twitter and looking in the group chats and that. By the sounds of it, we hit the woodwork copious amounts of times. And again, it's one of those games where we just couldn't put our chances away. And then lo and behold, we've conceded another one of those late goals that we have been guilty of conceding at times this season. I mean, I'd called it the day before. As soon as they give it Ryan Shawcross on interim when he lost 8 and drawn 1 in his 9 games with the 21s, I said it was nailed on to get beat 1-0. But I was still absolutely horrified when it happened to her. But it's just one of those. If we'll probably lose again against them in the FA Cup, but I'd rather just focus on the league. So we'll see.
Absolutely. I think somebody said you'd be second in the table if games finished on 90 minutes. If you look back at Plymouth, Blackburn, and Stoke, all those points there, that would definitely lift you up into higher echelons. One thing I wanted to ask you is about the seriousness of what the general media and other fans are giving to Sunderland's title credentials, because you've been top of the table, as you know, at the start of the season, drifted away. I think the maximum you've been is like 8 points behind, and now you've clawed that back thanks to all those games and others dropping points. But do you think a little bit more respect needs to be given to what Sunderland are doing? You don't have the biggest budget of the year at all. You're in the bottom half, as we've talked about, for wages. You've got a new manager who's never managed this level before, one of the youngest sides in the Championship. Sunderland need more credit than they're getting?
To an extent, yes. I think, especially towards the start of the season, less so now, because obviously we'll have beat some big teams and put some good performances in. A lot of talk was getting said about how, pretty much the same squad that finished 16th last season, but the playing staff was probably the last thing wrong with what was going on last season. So I think people knocking us over the head with that was a bit unfair. And yeah, as you said, we've had some really good results. We've beat Sheffield United, we've beat Burnley, we've drawn with Leeds, despite it being the luckiest draw of all time. But then you've got to flip that on its head. Wayne Rooney's just had the sack of Plymouth. They've won like one game. Guess who that was against? Sunderland. As you said there, we've had these late goals going in against Stoke, against Blackburn. So as much as, maybe we are due a bit more respect, we also do need to polish up on a few bits before we can really be like, we are one of the very, very, very top teams. I think if we can iron out these little indiscrepancies which are leading to these late equalisers, then top 2 is still within reach. I mean, top of the league still within reach. If we have a good January and other teams lose some players, it's still wide open. As you said, the points gap's not very big at all. But I don't really pay too much attention to what other people are saying. As long as my team's doing the business, I'm not bothered whatever everyone else thinks.
Yeah, I mean, we asked the other 3 teams what they thought, and I mean, 2 of them said Sunderland will fade away. Exactly their words. Burnley and Leeds fans said no. We've played them. They weren't all that, and they'll fade away. Sheffield United were very complimentary and said, they'll be right up there. Is it a 4-way title race? Do you think, or are you still just happy finishing 4th and being in the playoffs?
Well, to be honest, before the season started, I said that top 2 is definitely on the cards. I am expecting Leeds to run away with it unless they lose a couple of players and have a monumental capitulation. I think just the quality they've got in the squad, the money they've got, you'd expect them to run away with it. I do think second place, if we have a strong January, is within reach. Don't get us wrong, we would have to get fortunate with maybe some other teams dropping points the same way we have, but that's been happening with all the teams all season. So I think it's just a case of whichever 2 teams can stop dropping the daft points and get more consistent in the second half of the season, then they're going to run away with it. And I think we'll see a bit of a big gap open between first, second, and the rest of the playoffs sort of towards the back end of the season, and it won't be as close.
All right. I mean, all the neutrals, including all the Pompey fans you'll have seen on comments and so on social media, everybody wants Sunderland to do it because, of course, you're the ones that haven't got any parachute payments helping you on the way to do it. The other three certainly have. So I think the whole of the championship is definitely well behind Sunderland, and we'll be tracking every game across the next 4 months. So do stay with us, and all the team will be back from their Christmas holidays next week to look at head to the next game. Funny though, the next game is Stoke in the FA Cup, and that will jump on to discussion point number 3. Why haven't Sunderland done better in the FA Cup in recent years, Dylan? Before I ask you to answer that, if we just have a look, you won't need reminding of some of these results, but of course last year we won't mention that one at all. But you've had some shocking in the last 7 years. 2 first-round exits to Mansfield and to Gillingham, second round to Walsall, and then third-round exits to Middlesbrough, Burnley, and Arsenal, which is no disgrace. But in the last 5 years, your love-in with the FA Cup has it's not been great, has it? Why is that?
Well, as you said there, we've had some shocking results, but if we're brutally honest with ourselves, Sunderland's been a shocking team for most of the past 7 years. I mean, those back-to-back years where we got knocked out by Mansfield, that was just the absolute epitome of our years in League One. That fourth round tie against Fulham, we were quite unfortunate. Obviously, it went to a replay in the first game. Chris Rigg, at 15 years old, scored what would have been a 90th minute winner, but unfortunately for him, I think it was Abdullah Bar was offside in the build-up. I'd already fell through a table at that point, thinking that we'd won. So that was a bit rough. And then obviously we got beaten there. Got beaten in the replay of that game. But I think it's a case of when you're a bit lower down the leagues, you know you're not going to go on and win it, I suppose. I know obviously Coventry got quite close to a final, quite close to a final last season, but I think in the position we've been in the past few years, we've sort of had to just prioritise trying to do well in the league. And even still, we haven't managed that at times in League One. But again, this year, as much as everyone loves an FA Cup run, I would not blink twice at putting a rotation team out and getting beat by Stoke if it means we can fully focus on blocking in and trying to get promoted from this league back to the Premier League.
You've just answered my next question, because actually Stoke was saying, look, you know, that they're flirting with relegation. So they said exactly the same thing and said, please, Sunderland, just knock us out the cup. We don't care. Beat us 1-0. We'll come back and I'll focus on the league. And yet here you are saying exactly the same thing. You wouldn't mind at all if Stoke did one over on you?
Yeah, look, as I said, if we get knocked out, then it just means we can focus on the league. I'm expecting a rotation start to come out. I think there's a few players who are sort of on the cusps of the first team. Someone like Trey Ogunsoyi, who's been really good for the under-21s. I'd love to see him feature at some point in the game. Then you've got the likes of obviously Milan Alexic, who's mostly featured off the bench. Came off and was quite good off the bench this weekend. He probably deserves a start. Yeah. So I think we should be, especially in January, we should be looking at the sort of rotation players, giving them a start against another championship team and seeing if they are at the level, or if we maybe need to get a few more bodies in. But yeah, I'm easy. If we win, then we can hope for a cup run. But if we get beat, I'm not going to be too upset about it, to be honest.
Okay. All right. Let us know in the comments, please, what you think of this year's FA Cup. Has it lost a bit of magic for you, Dylan, as well? I wanted to ask you this because your kickoff time is reasonably decent, but others, we've got some crazy kickoffs time. So, this weekend, Watford Fulham on a Thursday night, for example. Do you think kickoff times and the way that the big teams treat the FA Cup has led to the competition not being as perhaps magical as when you were a young lad?
I don't know about that. Don't get us wrong. The stuff with the kickoff times and everything being changed around to accommodate the people watching on the streaming services, watching it on Sky instead of the match-going fans. But that's always going to leave a bad taste in people's mouths. But nobody was talking about the magic being gone when Coventry were in the semi-final last season until they probably unjustifiably got knocked out by Man United. So I suppose from that point, you could say the magic's gone a bit. But I think if you're one of the teams who gets a bit further than you should, I mean, it wasn't even that many years ago. Was it Lincoln and Sutton were in there getting to the semi-finals? How long ago was that? Probably about 6-7 years ago now? Yeah. I remember that was the proper height of FA Cup magic in the past few years. But yeah, that's all it takes. One or two sort of minnows to go on a run and the magic will be back and everybody will be behind them. If Sunderland want to win it, by all means, I wouldn't mind us being that team. But let's be, if we're being realistic, I'm not even going to expect anything like that.
Okay, right. Let's go through some transfer rumours then, and let you answer the question for which is who you should bring in. Let me run through some stuff that's been in the press and so on. Tottenham have just signed a new goalkeeper, so you'd be relieved, I think, at that one, because wasn't Patterson rumoured to be in there on their radar?
He was, and he's been linked with quite a few Premier League teams. And as much as I like Anthony Patterson, and he's an excellent shot stopper, I was saying it again yesterday at the match. His distribution is absolutely god awful. Like he mustn't practice kicking in training. I'm not trying to knock him, because I do really like him. And as I said, I think he's an outstanding keeper. I think he's improved a lot on sort of commanding his box, although he's had a few slip ups in the past few weeks. But I think they're just sort of blips that he'll iron out again, because when he first came into the side in League One, he was really bad at commanding his area, but that's something he's improved on. If he sorts his distribution out, he'll be able to play at the highest level. But looking at the future, if we are getting promoted, or well, hopefully getting promoted, I don't think you can have a goalkeeper in the Premier League who can't use his feet. And Anthony Patterson cannot use his feet. No disrespect to him. I don't think he'd even argue himself if he was being honest. So if a team were to come calling and give the right money, then I would probably sell him, to be totally honest. I wouldn't force him out, but I'd take a good offer, because teams have shown you don't need to pay him massive money to get good goalkeepers. Look at Johansson at Stoke. He was available for what was about 900,000 from Rotherham. I wanted us to be all over that in the summer, and we weren't. But if you told me last summer that Patterson was going to go to a Spurs or to a Liverpool for £10 million, we could get him for just shy of £1 million, then I would have snapped your hand off for it. But then I suppose we've got Matty Young out on loan at Salford as well, who's played really, really well in recent weeks. He's been averaging sevens, 8 ratings. And I think it's a foregone conclusion that as long as we manage to keep him, he'll be the one who sort of takes the reins off Pato whenever he does leave. I'm not too worried about it, to be honest.
Okay, there's Matty Young, who's been attracting some interest as well from the Premier League as well. He's going to go to City with Salford, isn't he, on this weekend? It's them that are rumoured as well. Louis Barry has been mentioned, of course, in Sunderland's names as well, but you can't see that one happening personally, because I think Villa are going to want assurances that he's going to start regularly in games, and you probably can't give him that assurance, can you? Given your straight force at the moment.
Well, see, this is what I thought, because Louis Barry, obviously, he can play sort of anywhere across the front three, but he's really excelled at Stockport off the left. And yeah, as much as we've got injuries at the minute, we've got two very exciting young left wingers. We've got Romain Mundle, we've got Tommy Watson, and they're both going to be back in a matter of weeks. If you told me that we were going to sign Louis Barry, which I know we won't, then I'd probably be all for it. But for the sake of having him, despite him being a really good player, for the sake of 6 months, I'd rather just develop our own, because I think they're already at a level where they can contribute a lot. I mean, Romain Mundle was on absolute fire before he got injured. So it's not like it's a position that we're lacking quality in or depth for that extent once we've got them both back. It was just really unfortunate that they got similar injuries at a similar time and have both sort of been out for the past few weeks. But even still, we've now found a way around that with Al-Shish fighting his way back into the team, which you've got to give him a lot of praise for, because I think it was already decided by pretty much everyone that he was going to be off in January. Maybe Reggie Slibbery's rethinking that decision. Obviously, he was happy to let him leave on a free to come to us when he was the manager at Lorient, and now he's been starting him. And he's been playing quite well. Yesterday, I do think there was times when he was trying a bit too hard to get a goal for himself instead of a goal for the team. But I think when you're trying to prove a point and you want him to sort of make your stamp on a side, I see why maybe he might have sort of gone for the personal glory at some points. But yeah, long story short, I didn't mean to go on a massive tangent there, but I don't think we need to sign Louis Barry. But I'd take him, but I'm not desperate for us to get him.
Right, let's grab some names from you then. Have you got any that you'd love to grab?
Yeah, I've got a couple. First of all, because I've seen it on Twitter, I'll just quickly mention it, that Enzo Lefebvre, I personally can't see there being anything in this. Don't get me wrong, if we are to get promoted, that is one of the first players that I would have had earmarked for us to try and sign, because it's a well-known fact he was Reggie Slibbery's sort of golden boy at Lorient, and everything in the midfield went through him. But he's only got a run for £20 million in the summer just gone. I think he's only made about 6 appearances, all of which off the bench. He's barely featured. But I just can't see a world where we're getting him this window in the Championship. And if we are, I'd be concerned that maybe there's some movement about someone going out. But that's also something I can't see happening. I'm seeing Joe linked with Crystal Palace again. He was happy to not sign for them in the summer. I don't see why that would change now. If anything, their stock's probably dropped a bit, because they were looking really good towards the back end of last season, and now they've sort of back a bit lower down the table. So yeah, I'd have Lefebvre, obviously, but then the question is who comes out the side? Is it Neil? Because they're not going to drop Rig or Joe, but then Neil's the captain, you can't really drop him. But yeah, excellent player, and I'd absolutely probably have a seizure if we signed him because I'd be that excited, but I just can't see it happening. Another player who I've made no mistake about saying I really want us to sign, I've said it to you already before, is Kwame Poku. I know he's injured at the minute, but I do think we've been in some desperate need for some competition for Patrick Roberts on the right-hand side. Obviously, we signed Ian Poveda, who's got himself injured. I really can't see anything coming of that. We've given him a massive multi-year deal. I wouldn't be surprised if he's gone this coming summer if he doesn't start playing or when he comes back from his injury. And don't get me wrong, Roberts has been a lot better in recent weeks, and I've been really impressed with his performances. But I think we need to bring in someone of good quality to give him that competition to motivate him to keep playing, keep putting the performances in when he knows he's at risk of getting dropped out the side. Whereas now he's just guaranteed our starting right winger no matter how he plays. One other player, typically, who's also just got himself injured, who I really like. I was wanting us to sign him in the summer before we signed Wilson Isidor. But I've seen the reports that we are after another striker. He's playing in the German second division for Kaiserslautern. He's called Ragnar Ache. He's a really powerful, quick centre forward. I don't get us wrong, I don't sit and watch Kaiserslautern week in, week out. But when I was being a little nerd and trying to find signing for us in the summer, I was looking at some of his clips, and he's rapid, but he's really good in the air as well. Like a lot of the goals he was scoring was headers, and I think sometimes with balls coming out of the box, that's something that we really miss. I think he got 16 goals in 26 league games last season, and then scored 9 and 13 this season before he got injured. And he's only, I think, 25, 26 years old. And he's one of those profiles where that sort of striker can score goals at any level. So we could bring him in now. And then if we went up, he'd still be able to cut it in the Premier League, or even someone we could look at signing in the summer, whether we stay down or go up. But yeah, that's another player I really like. Other than that, assuming there's nothing in this Enzo Lefebvre stuff, I would like a bigger, more physical midfielder, because when Joe was out for those few games a few weeks ago, we really lacked that physicality. But I can't think of any specific names. I just want some like a Premier League loanee who's a bit lanky. Maybe it's a Tim Eric Boonham from Everton. I know they paid a bit of money for him, but that was all FFP stuff, wasn't it? I don't know if he's actually worth that much, but he was all right when he was on loan at QPR. So maybe someone like that, just a bit bigger, because Chris Riggs tiny, Dan Neil's not the tallest, and when Joe's out the side, we look really diminutive in midfield.
Okay. Really thorough analysis there. Thank you very much, Dylan. If you have any to add to that impressive list, you do drop it into the comments below. Thank you very much, Dylan. I would say you enjoyed the game against Stoke, but you could care less anyway how that goes. And we'll catch you back here next week, where, of course, we're talking about it's Burnley next, is it?
It is Burnley away. It'll be a lot harder than last time we played them. Having no illusions.
Friday night on Sky. We'll look forward to that. We'll preview that, of course, right here next week. Join us for that. Thank you, Dylan. Have a great week. Thanks for watching, everyone.